Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well. So tonight we have a public hearing on HDC application number 25-1, which is the application of Blue Hour Design LLC for review of an application for proposal for demolition, new construction, window replacement, and miscellaneous restorations to the existing residential structures located at the property at 89 Front Street. Subject property is in the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District. Tax map parcel 73-301. Who do I have here on behalf of the applicants?
I am Beverly Biankowitz. I am the project manager on the project. I am presenting on behalf of my principal, Kyle Sheffield, who is out of town. And my clients are Judith and Bill Meany of 89 Front Street.
So I was not present at the last meeting. I had a chance to look through the minutes and the application, but I'll let you kind of take it away and pick up where we left off. Wow.
Sure thing. So we were here last month, but I am here to formally present to you all the proposed renovations for a certificate of appropriateness. We have come back with the comments baked into our design that we had discussed last time. And thank you so much for taking the time this evening to meet with us. Typically, our HDC process in other towns is very similar. We like to do the introduction conversation and work with the HDC to get things approved of. And just be able to make sure we're always, respecting the history and completing the client's goals of how they want to live. Just a small background, Judith and Bill moved and purchased the property in 2019. They moved to Exeter full-time just to be with their young family who was attending the school in town. And they fell in love with the town's historic richness and character and decided to stay and wanted to make this home their full home that they live for the rest of their lives in. So, just a little history. The front main structure of the Amos Tuck House is an Italianate structure. It was the first one in Exeter and was the only one until 1864 when the neighboring property also built an Italianate structure. The rear buildings, the barn over here, the carriage house, and then the rear L, which is kind of glimpsed back here. Those are all more colonial structures. They were also of the time of secondary structures to the main because they were also used by staff members that filled the home. And for just some site plan view, in 2010, this might be a little hard to see, but you can probably see it better on your pages. They originally had the two-story structure in this red portion here. There was a small screen porch on the back, and then this deck off the rear, and then a stoop in front porch along the front of the L shape in this rear. And then as of 2010, up till now, they had removed that deck piece and expanded the screened porch. They also had added a chimney off this back portion. And they had various window adjustments to the L as well. So there was a lot of modifications that happened to this rear portion of the building. So what we're proposing is staying within the footprint that has already been expressed here in the existing site plan and making this a two-story structure and giving ourselves adding a deck off the back, which was similar to what was there before. And then obviously just some porch access into the side. So, sorry. Whew. Just actually one more when I go back. So we're proposing to work on the property in those areas and which all fall within the jurisdiction which is noted in blue, so that ends up landing on this line on the site plan. So the overall goals of the home is if the Meanies are to live there for the rest of their lives, they want to be able to be stewards to the home and take care of the historic precedents that have already been set in this property. But also, ideally, we want to make it accessible for the owners as they age through their timeline. So adjusting floor levels, like in the rear L, is really important, so they can have easy access on the second floor. Grayson, there's a 2-foot drop between the main volume and the rear L. And then improving the overall natural light in the home as well, for their kitchens, and also as part of the accessibility, we want to add some elevators into the building. So in order to do so, we would have to dig down for that 2-story structure, so you can have an easy access to the elevator, which is expressed here. So we're proposing to demolish essentially this portion of the L. So we've flipped about 180 degrees from the site plan. We don't, ooh, there we go. As I noted previously, these elements have received a lot of renovations over the years. The current screen porch is 1'6" off the west facade and 11'9" wide off the main house north facade. And the current L is 1'6" off the main, so over here it sits about 1'6" off this facade here. And the L is 18'7" wide, and the porch is 6'6" wide. Both project off the main house north facade, so we're kind of taking away from the entire Italianate structure, but the total existing footprint on the site is 945 square feet. So we would reconstruct a new addition within the same width here, but pull back this stair so this Italianate structure is more projected to the street. And also, as part of the original house, they had, we want to put the kitchen in the rear to be able to get some extra light in this room. And also because it becomes more of a gathering space instead of a service quarters, like it was in the history.
So why don't, we can pause. Does anybody have any questions
Yeah.
as we're going through this so far?
You know, we have seen this house before.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that, we didn't get too far ahead of ourselves.
No,
and just
it's-
try
it's
and,
no
and
problem.
circle back, 20 minutes
Yeah.
ago, so.
No, this is a much more substantial project than what we saw the last time an owner brought it before us.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. If we're all set, I can keep going?
Yep.
Okay. And then additionally, off of the rear of the building, we're proposing adding this deck at this level here. So there will be a wall, a retaining wall at this point here. And then the wood, and it's essentially the same footprint as what was proposed, what was originally there before. And then lastly, for more access into the house to get to the basement where the elevator lives, there will be a ramp that goes down into a basement door that leads into this space below and can easily be accessible from the parking court.
I have a question. You
Sure.
mentioned that because of the elevator, you have to dig down in the basement of what's already there. Are you lowering that whole basement floor?
Yes. Yes. For constructability purposes, it's just,
Well, we won't see it, but
yeah, exactly. All of the eave and frieze details would match the existing front porch, but without all of the overly decorative brackets. And then the clapboard siding would match the existing clapboards that are there right now on the north elevation and the main volume of the house. Okay, and so these are just the second floor plans because we're eliminating all the way up. So this piece here, and then we're replacing within. So on the exterior, this is what's existing now. And then we are just filling that in with the similar clapboards and the, similar clapboards, same shutters, and then we're infilling with the brick, which is what we've found in the basement to be existing. And keeping the deck level with the rear, so you have a full brick wall that you can see from the driveway. We took into consideration the not having ganged windows from the last time we've met. So we did pull them apart, but we wanted to keep the amount of windows just to make sure we're getting enough light into those spaces during the day.
okay, this is where I have a comment.
Sure.
In the, I don't know, before the 80s or sometime like that, when someone was adding new construction onto an existing house, HDC's got a bad name because we wanted it to replicate the existing house, whereas now we understand houses grow and they change, and so the new part doesn't have to have exactly the same kind of thing as the existing house. On this one, the thing that stuck out with me is the shutters. Because, you look at the original house and those shutters actually fit the windows. But if you look on the addition, they're tiny little shutters that are just saying, we're a shutter. And they're not, if you, used them, they wouldn't cover the windows. So I recommend they're just no shutters.
Okay. No shutters?
Good for your client.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you all agree on that.
Actually, that L has been done and redone and redone again.
Okay.
And so, and you really cannot see it from the street.
No.
So I don't really care, as long as they don't do glass and concrete, but it's sort of, you know what I do care about.
I know.
And it's sitting right there, like a great big,
I understand.
yes.
But yeah, what was your concern?
That big ugly walkway.
Okay, we'll get to that.
We will get there, I promise.
So we had
But yeah, so if everybody else agrees, I'd
I
recommend.
actually am a little uneasy about the windows, and I know that I had commented last time that I thought that they were kind of inappropriate for the L, and I'll just explain my thinking on that. For one thing, on the opposite side of the L, you have a more singular window pattern, so this is a departure from what's going to be on the other side of your design, which I think is a little unusual. I also think that changing the configuration and style of windows in a way that's not compatible is not appropriate per our guidelines. We talk about that in Chapter 5 on windows and doors, and I think that a more singular window pattern is more appropriate. My other concern is that I don't see a lot of windows like this within the district, so this kind of is a departure from what's presently in the district now, which is just something to consider when, you're thinking about wanting to retain this historic character. And I think, because I was curious driving down the street, you can see the back L from the public way. And I think at different times of year, it's less visible than others. But I just think you might want to really consider that when you're making these changes.
Okay, as in veering away from double hungs that were already there, or?
I feel as though the way in which the windows are so close to one another, I mean, you have basically what looks like a triple window, and then you have two double windows. I don't see that like anywhere else on the house. I know that there are double windows on the Italianate structure, but this is a completely different, this is not an Italianate L. This is a much more colonial vernacular style addition to the home.
Are you looking for, like, more continuity? As in the existing house, it's window over window, and then when you break these things down.
Yeah, and I think to have them, the actual windows themselves, because you have two 6x6s close to each other, is just having them be more like what is currently on the L. I think they're just way too close together, would be my honest opinion. It looks like one big window, the way you have it now.
No, I hear you on that. I mean, for us, we were just trying to maximize the amount of light in the kitchen. Our clients are early birds, so morning light is a wonderful thing to have in the morning while having your coffee. So that was part of the movement to try and expand on the windows while keeping the double hungs, at least similar to what's there now with the heights. But I understand what you're saying.
I mean, would you be uncomfortable to follow the similar window pattern and just, instead of that small window, break those three up so that it kind of follows a more traditional pattern, at least on that top part?
On the top,
The triple window.
yep,
What's in that room?
it's a bathroom, so there's some walls that are in the way of moving them too much, so, I can see how much I can update from that, yeah.
I think that would be, I mean, and this is just my opinion, I want to hear what the commission has to say about it, but I think that might be a great way to balance what I think is a great design. I mean, the massing of this L that you're proposing, I think is great. I think it's, kind of nice that you're taking away the porch, because now you're allowing that front house to be more visible. But I actually think that these kind of largely masked windows maybe take away from that front house as well.
May I ask you about the shutters?
Yeah.
So if the shutters, for me, I agree with you, Julie. I think the shutters need.
Can you come to the microphone and introduce yourself? This is recorded, so people need to know who's speaking.
So regarding the shutters, I agree with Julie that when you have shutters, they need to have the size to cover the windows. Otherwise, it looks like Playmobil or something. So, but would you agree if the shutters were the right size? Would you agree for us to have shutters in the back house or not?
I don't think they have enough linear space to have either those windows or even
Yeah, the ganged windows.
the ganged
or the
windows.
close to
Yeah.
windows are.
So they would have to be single windows. They would have to be broken up, as Verity suggested, in order to be able, because, from what I was pointing out, is the original windows, the shutter's the same size as what they're covering. So in the addition, those windows would have to have the same kind of space. And so it would mean on the lower floor in particular, spacing those windows out more so that you can, because right now you see shutter to shutter, and that you couldn't put I'm not using my
I
word.
understand. I understand. If you had
But
single
but
windows,
just-
you need more space between the windows.
Yeah.
But
So-
are you? My question to you is: are you totally against shutters?
I am, yeah. And I am on the addition,
Okay.
but that's just me.
So what you're saying is have on the upper floor, 3 windows spaced evenly apart without shutters. And on the first floor, breaking up the massing of those 2 blocks of windows, and would those be 4 windows, or would those be, how do you, I'm not quite sure what you're suggesting for the first floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 2 windows would be acceptable. 2 being one 6/6 and then another 6/6. I'm not opposed to shutters on that back L, but yeah.
Well, the configuration it is right now is not appropriate, but,
If there were
Yes.
shutters, it would
Yes.
fix itself because you wouldn't have as many window panes.
yeah.
Right.
Right. Up the light.
Oops. So, where does that leave us?
I can continue if we want.
Do you have any questions for what we've said?
No, everything that's been described is making sense. I'm taking notes as well.
Okay.
This is a very minor, is the window that's over the door offset from the door? It looks like it's it looks like it's a bit to the left as you're looking at it, which,
On the, which,
I think it's over the door, but you've got this side pane that makes it look like it's not centered.
Yeah,
okay.
it's just the trim, I believe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
This, you're talking about this right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And you may have, I think you mentioned this. What is the reasoning for the transition from the existing stone to the brick?
There's existing brick in the rear that we found to be the original foundation, part of the original, so we wanted to bring that back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. May I continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Wonderful. And then so this is the opposite elevation that we were just talking about. So this would be from the west. We'd be removing the screen porch, just to open up more window space on this side, even though it gets a little more shade during this time of day. And then jumping to the materials. So we would be keeping the clapboard walls and painting with the same coloring as what's there now. Window and shutters were to match existing, but windows will match existing. The roofing will be asphalt to match. The brick will be in the foundation. And then we will be keeping copper gutters and downspouts similar to what's already on the house, both on the L and the Italianate structure. Same with the corner board detail as well. And then over at the deck area, we'll just be adding a metal railing for safety, of course, and a pergola for shade. So these are just some of the views from Public Way. And then this is the opposite side, the west view. So we do have the Lincoln tree in the back there, but that is pretty much the view walking down the street.
Can you go back to A200?
Sure.
The window, the window to the right is the same size, I think, as the ones on the top. I'm just wondering why that one's a different size.
So this one,
yeah, the sill height is higher.
because it's at a countertop.
It's a countertop,
Yeah.
okay. And what's upstairs, the empty space between?
That's a closet wall.
That's a closet. Okay.
Can I ask have you thought about what kind of replacement windows you're going to be using, or what kind of windows are going to be going in?
Yes, we will be. We'll be doing an insulated glass true divided light window. Thinking about Marvin or even going to Little Harbor, which would do custom wood windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just for the addition, right, or the L off the back?
Well, the addition, and then that would also be applied to the windows being added to the carriage house. Any windows that.
Right, but
Yeah.
not to the main house.
No.
Can you go back to, I'm looking at all your plans, I'm trying to find the elevations. There you go. To something. 201,
201.
after I started talking about the windows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the top, maybe this is where it comes from. So the top of the addition did change a lot from what had been there. And that's where we're talking about the spacing of the windows and that change. But they're all offset too.
I do have one actually quick question while we're on this slide again. Would it be fine if we were to eliminate the middle window at the top so we could get the shutters in and they would that be an acceptable change to the elevation?
I would be happy with that.
Yeah.
So eliminating,
But then you would have to do shutters on. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, and you'd still have those big windows on the first floor are the ones that are really throwing off your shutterness.
you might want to think about that for a while.
You know, I think the middle window on the second floor is fine. It gets back to the rhythm of the, excuse me, the rhythm of the surface and void.
Just wanted to double check, so so we can definitely eliminate that and we can reevaluate those first floor windows. Okay, so. So just for the carriage house now, those changes, we will just be taking away the 3 windows shown here and just infilling with clapboard that will match the existing at the moment, and then putting in 4 windows that are of the exact same size and shape to match the existing. And then, so, windows and clapboard, and this is again that view from the side. The carriage house is a bit harder to see from the public way, but. Okay, and then just to introduce the third portion of what we're asking is the porte cochere. So in these images, you can see that there was a horse run-in between the carriage house and the barn at one point. Currently, it's an open pergola with columns and bases, and we're proposing that the porte cochere just utilizes that space in between the 2 structures and connects them both on the second level. This is part of the design to make both these outbuildings as accessible as possible, because the barn will be getting a elevator, so you would be able to go up the elevator in the barn and cut across into the carriage house with ease.
Is that going to be a separate apartment or?
That room is to be just part of the upstairs rec program.
I didn't hear you.
The upstairs rec and office area.
Rumpus room.
It still looks clunky. And the way it is now is very graceful, and that's part of the whole point of the house.
Yeah, this was a big negotiation we had with the last owner that proposed something very similar to what you are, actually. That was quite a bit of discussion. I don't know. We found that the little piece of arched and the made a compromise on what was proposed to have the columns, but leave the shape of the port connector really remain, because that's such an icon of the structure of this particular building, and you know, its barn, it was probably something fancy at the time it was built, so it was shiny and new then.
Yeah.
But it really is, to me, something I expect to see when I go down Front Street. I expect to see that there, and not with the glazing, not I don't know, just not there. But it doesn't solve your problem.
It becomes kind of the focal point when it's massed like this. It's, you drive by, or I can imagine driving by, because when I look at the plans, that's right where my eye goes, and I don't know that that's a good thing, and I understand why you're putting it there. I
Yeah.
understand the purpose, but
Yeah.
I think it detracts from the entire picture of the house and the barn.
I think it's the amount of roof that you have to have.
Yeah.
Julie, I could hear you, the amount of,
The roof that you have to have.
How wide is it now? What's the,
Apologies. I can't read it from there. It's about 20 feet deep, but we pulled it back from the original front facade. Like, when we had met previously, that was one of the comments, was pulling that face back. So we had pulled it back by a little over a foot and added some extra glazing that was proposed to us as well when we last spoke. But I understand the view. However, there's still, like, the view range through the property it still exists because of the glass, I think, because you're able to
Well,
see.
you can
right through.
actually blame Mr. Tuck for this, because he didn't have to put that arch there.
That's true.
He did that specifically. So, there it is. And there it is sat for over 100 years, and it looks so nice. And it really is one of the iconic features of this beautiful house. You'll have an angry ghost.
Will they?
Now, I
the main purpose is so that's an enclosed walkway between the two structures.
connector.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still
Anyway.
high enough up that you can walk underneath it,
Yeah.
though. It's still it's still a walkway for people. It is also just especially helpful for to have that conditioned space.
How wide is it front to back? Or deep?
The depth is 20.
that's very wide.
So I'm wondering, because, you know, when the drawing is a little deceptive, because if you use, were you proposing black asphalt shingles for that?
Just what we were proposing to match what the carriage house and the barn already have, which was replaced with asphalt shingle.
Yeah. Now, I understand that making it lighter with all being mostly glass is an intention to take away the heaviness of adding a story basically to that porte cochere.
Yeah.
But that roof is what really is the dominant feature, I think, that you're going to see is a sheet of black and, you know, some nice light underneath. But and so I was just trying to figure out if it's deep enough to just have a slightly tilted roof. I don't know. Connection's very, very tight.
On a separate point, and I know we've talked about kind of the arch. Is it, and I'm just trying to think of different ways to kind of make this work. Would it be possible to maintain that arch on the bottom while also being able to have the walkway? Just from an architectural standpoint, I do not know.
Yeah, it's not a structural element,
So
really.
adding an arch underneath to keep
To-
that composition?
Yeah.
Yes, and then, I mean, that doesn't solve Julie's valid concern about the roof that we see, but trying to reach some sort of maintenance of what exists.
Yeah, part of the reason the roof structure has to be the way it is because we're trying to align with the barn second floor at the moment, so we just need to gain a good amount of head height in there
Yeah.
for it to remain livable space.
When you go through the walkway now, if you looked up, what do you see? Is it open? Is it open? It's got a
The pergola
roof?
right now, it's got the cross-secting members above it, and then there are some plantings that are growing over on top as well. So you're not really seeing as much up, but I assume during winter, when we just came out of, it would be a little easier to see straight up.
So there's nothing that can work that would allow you to make
It's all-
ground level, the connector, the pedestrian connector. I know you've got the elevator issues, but can you make, I mean, 20 feet wide is substantial, and it seems like just having a solid something overhead would allow you to have a safe passage in all seasons between the L and the barn.
There already is a door on either side.
True, but I think the idea for our design is that the upstairs of both of these buildings is the livable space,
Yeah.
and below is the car storage, so we're just trying to utilize how best to move through both.
In case of future mobility issues.
Exactly.
No, that's what I'm.
I understand, though, that because if we were to do something covered, at a first floor level, we could do something like that, yes. But
You need a fireman's pole.
That's great for mobility issues.
In either case, but both the L and the, or the L and the barn, have an elevator on the first floor going up one floor. Is that to the second floor?
the barn will have an elevator from the first floor going up to the second, and then the L will have an elevator that goes from the basement to the second floor.
So you're having 2 elevators.
Yes.
No,
Dear
really,
Lord.
this is aging in place. I mean, that's kind of what you need to do.
Whew. Why don't you just put gold plate on the walls?
Yeah, stop it.
So if you're in the L,
Yes, I can go back a slide.
let's say you're in between the L and the barn, and you want to get, oh, yeah,
I can
it
go to
doesn't
a
really
plan.
matter what image, I'm
Here.
just,
So from the L to the barn?
yeah. So if you're,
So these are to be separate,
yeah,
separated in terms of full access within this building, and then that's why we have an elevator in the barn, is the mobility access really comes from the basement level. There's a ramp that comes up to the exterior.
okay. I'm just thinking, I know elevators can't be an inexpensive installation or a purchase, but if you maintained the elevator in the main part of your house, if you had a stairway, and this isn't as elegant as an elevator, but if you have a stairway in the barn that could have like a chair lift, like a I can't remember what.
Oh, the-
Acorn, whatever. I mean, those aren't glamorous, but they get you safely from one level to the other. It's not something that would be visible. I don't know.
That doesn't just need getting between those two back buildings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Can I make a,
Uh.
can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the,
And can you just introduce yourself for the
Yes.
record? Yeah, sorry.
I am Judith Meany, I'm the owner of this house. And,
And you're speaking very softly. And
Sorry.
I do have my hearing aids in,
can you hear me now?
yes.
So sorry, Bill, my husband couldn't be here tonight, so I'm representing the both of us. So the idea is really that, yeah, for mobility issues, you know, when you get old, you want to stay in your own home for as long as you want. Our vision is that us, the old couple, would be living in the back of the house, connecting those two, and then one of our children would live in the front, and probably their kids hopefully would go to school as they did at PA. I have a question with regards to the connection. So when you are talking about the pergola and the curve that connects the two, that structure is really only 12 years old. So it's not historical.
No, but.
What is historical is this. If you allow me, I can walk around and show you the way it was. You have it on there. So shall I show you or?
Sure. Might as well, we might have it already.
Is it the image I had before? Okay.
On this one, you see the way it was before. So it's
That was something that was decided in 2012.
Well,
so
Yeah,
this
that-
is really old, and this is what it was before. There's nothing to write home about.
No, but it's,
And what is there is, from a historical point of view, it is not.
she has a point.
It's not historical. It's not an antique. I just would like you to understand that. So that. So we, if we wanted to, we could go back to this and do it like it was 100 years ago.
Does anyone know when that photograph was taken? I have been trying to find a date for that photograph for a little while now, and I don't know if I've just missed it, but
This one up here?
yeah.
I do not have a date for that one. These are all from the Historic Society I had just gathered.
Okay,
I just didn't have a date for that, for all of them.
that's okay. I was just curious.
Just a small point on the roof commentary for the connecting structure. From further points of the street, the roof will eventually be diminutive by how far away you're viewing it. You're not coming, I mean, unless you're invited into the property, you're not coming further into it. So part of that is also kind of falling away into the view. I can go back to those slides as well. So I understand that this is a harder image because you're viewing straight on, but when you're standing further away, as if you're even at the sidewalk, this becomes less pertinent than it was when obviously you're viewing everything straight on. That's just construction drawings, I think.
sort of, maybe, kind of, but no, it still looks pretty big.
Yeah, I just did a quick search before we had the meeting, and it wouldn't be the only house in the historic district with a porch there. So it wouldn't, it's not like it would be the only structure that had this.
No, it's just the, the proportion of it compared to what's existing and even the proposed new work.
No, we,
We're not used to it.
no, I understand.
Can I ask
and,
something else? So if we go over 200 feet, we can do whatever we want, right?
There is a 200-foot line from.
So we could actually, there's a balcony in the back of the garage, and we could just make a connection on that level to the barn. And it would be, further 200 feet. It would be actually maybe not as pretty what Beth is suggesting, but we would have every right to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you. If you think, I also think that you're at a different angle. You won't see the roof quite as it is shown there, I think.
That's true, you're not at street
The-
view.
Yes, and the pergola is much deeper than what we're proposing here. It's over the 20-foot. And we do agree, Pam, with Mr. Tuck, and that the pergola, but with the approval of the pergola, we just wanted to be able to create a more covered storage area like Mr. Tuck had originally had too.
Now go back to what Mrs. Heaney said. Where would you put this?
The idea is that there is some space in the rear where it does not fall within the 200-foot line.
So you're going back.
So
Right.
Back,
we
yeah.
could go further back with it, but but we'd like to be able to have the amount of space that we're proposing and still be respectful to, having this be, it's still a view port. You're still going to be able to see these trees that are peeking out from the property. Those will be visible right through. We're just trying to be able to gain the space needed so that way these rear structures can fully house our clients when they want to pass on the front main property to their children.
Well, I'm confused, but that's not unusual.
It would attach like a U
Yeah.
to the back of both of the structures. Coming back, yeah, past the 200-foot line.
Exactly.
Can't say no if I can't visualize it, so.
Personally, I think that's a great accommodation. I'm okay with how it's presented, so.
Thank you. I know it's a harder pill to swallow with, I know, the past property owners that have presented before. I think we're trying our best to be as respectful to, the historic aspects of this property, but we also are trying to also balance this need that the clients have and making the home theirs as well. You don't want to buy a historic property, move into it, and not be able to put your touch anywhere.
No, I understand that, and I really appreciate the aging in place part that we want. Maybe 3 generations will be there at one time. But we're not here to talk about the purpose, and that's unfortunate. That connection is the only thing that really, the connection and the spacing of the windows are the only things that we seem to have some disagreement on. And I can't, but I can't come up with another recommendation for that unless we go, beyond the 200-foot line. It's an unfortunate thing to have to do. I will say that. If it wasn't as wide or as deep than 20 feet, so that you could move that back away from the front edge, from the front street, would that, if it was a narrower, narrower gangway, let's say, between the two buildings, but was pushed way back. So not that you'd have to add on, at the 200, beyond the 200-foot level, but, or radius. Would that be able to work?
You mean by
We
building
could-
in here?
Well, I think
I didn't- no.
the width to cover the doors on the first floor, so you'd have
Oh, yeah.
covered storage and
Yeah.
walkway on the bottom as well.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We did push it back from the last time we spoke
Yeah.
as well. We could bring back the arch that's there in the pergola structure to kind of replicate that underneath what's existing, what we have drawn right now. Would that be a helpful additive to kind of call back to the existing photograph?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about
Yeah.
previously, is I
Yeah.
think that may be a way to maintain kind of the,
And then put
Visual-
a covered walkway. on
in
top of it.
between history.
yeah.
Yeah, so kind of keeping that, I have it here, so keeping that kind of language under here, and it's just, in this case, this is closer to the front facade, but it would be pushed back as a,
Yeah, I was just seeing it as an applied, almost like trim. When Grayson was mentioning it, that it would just be, it's not a structural element, it's just some trim in that shape,
yeah.
So you're talking about just putting the arch like that?
Well, it's not really an arch, it's just well, it's a slice of an arch.
Yeah, so essentially taking this decorative
Yeah,
portion
yeah, and just making
and
it,
utilizing it
Not-
here. We would just have to drop the column height just a little bit, so our spring point would be different, but it would still be walkable underneath and kind of still
Yeah.
echo that shape.
It's walkable underneath right now, we walked it, but,
yeah, see, it's much shallower than you're drawing here. It's a really shallow arch there. And that's why I'm saying it's really just a piece of trim on your structure. On the bottom, it can be similar. I don't know. It's a
Well,
slight
this
arch.
pergola was the inspiration for for these trim pieces to begin with, since there's such decorative trim on
Right.
it. But just,
Does the lower part of the, I'm going to get up and point because I'm not using my words well today.
no, it's fine.
I'll go back to
Oh, sorry.
This part here is just trim?
Yep.
And that's not, is it?
Well, there's a floor structure behind it, but this is a decorative trim on the outside, yes.
So that's what I'm talking about, is to make that the arch, look like the arch part.
Yeah, that can be done.
Not changing the structure or dropping the structure or anything like that. Because you're keeping the columns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, keeping the columns.
Julie, are you saying using like the existing height of the arch that's there and then building the walkway on top of that?
I'm just, wherever it works out in the structural engineering of it.
I would just ask,
Yeah.
would there be a height restriction?
To adding the arch?
Well, if you kept it the same height as the arch now,
Mm-hmm.
and then put a covered walkway on top of that.
then it would be up
Would it be
around-
higher?
Yeah.
I think
would
the
be
roof would end up higher in
yeah,
that
that's what I
case.
was-
So the thought I was having was making it more additive to be below,
Yeah.
Right.
which would still gain you access underneath
Right.
and would keep the head height needed in here.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, arched all the way through your 20 feet. It's just the face,
Yeah.
just the fascia.
Oh, I understand. A decorative face would make it much more relatable. For the, would you prefer a different roofing material? I know that was
Well, I don't know.
like a copper maybe, or,
Ooh. No.
or a red
That
roof?
would be pretty stunning, but it, you know how it
Okay,
how it ages.
yeah.
Then it would really be pleasantly apparent. I think not as I see the black asphalt as being seeming like a dense mass, and when you have this light structure underneath it, to me it feels like it should be on the ground instead. But that's just the design of it. It's not. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a solution. I don't think copper is it, because that's.
If you could even get copper.
Zinc maybe?
What did you say?
A zinc roof?
What kind of a roof?
Zinc?
Zinc.
It's a metal that sort of grayish, doesn't. Yeah, this picture showing the sky so bright blue. This is not your typical. I had this conversation with the hospital once. This is not your typical New England sky. It is usually more gray than
Yeah, I
this.
caught it on a different day.
Yeah. So zinc might be.
Too reflective in that case?
Well, no, it isn't all reflective.
Oh.
Would it be ridged? Or whatever?
The roof ridged, yes.
No, I mean, a standing seam?
Yes.
So then that brings up, that brings up the question of how they merged.
Well, so I'm more so just replying to the comment of the darkness of the black asphalt,
Yeah.
which would match the two structures at the moment. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to, if there was an alternative, I'm happy to explore it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if, are you willing to come back, or do you want us to make a decision tonight?
I would love a decision tonight. However, I would love a decision tonight would be great.
Okay, just want to, because we're talking about things and then saying, I'll look at that, and if we can't give you a conditional approval, we could approve like the L addition and any changes you're making to the barn and carriage house, but say it's a condition that you come back with a
For this.
redesign for the connection.
Yeah.
Something
That
like
would be
that.
lovely if
Does that sound like a,
that's the case.
The only
way to
question that I
go.
had was, how are we gonna handle the windows on the, I believe, the east elevation? Because I think we were gonna talk about dropping one, and then there were talk about shutters. So I just don't know how we can do a conditional approval
Yeah, we just have to,
unless we just say that. But I thought you were gonna explore kind of the different options for that.
Yeah, you had
We
mentioned
can-
taking out the center window and the shutters on top. What do you do with the double hung?
They could either drop to one larger window in the place of either, with larger shutters that would be operable, or maybe the alternative is we take out the center window and we remove the shutters altogether, so it's, at least the upstairs has the more punched pattern, and then we get to keep some of the lighting down in the kitchen.
Well, I'd like to get this done as much as anybody, but I think you're going to have to come back with a picture. Unless you can say, I will drop the center window and put on shutters that look like this.
if we can say on the main elevation there, page 204,
Yep.
on the second floor of the addition, to remove that middle of the tri-window.
We can remove the
Yeah.
middle window, yep.
Then if you want to have shutters, they will be able to fit the actual size of, they'll be the right size to fit your windows.
Correct.
It's the first floor that we're struggling with.
Yep.
Yes.
If you didn't have the side lights on the door, would that give you, that would give you a little more wiggle room with the windows?
Well, is it a three-quarter door?
So we're
Is
just
that-
constricted on the interior because of this is the kitchen wall. So,
There's that again.
Gosh darn.
Okay.
yes, we're just,
You know, if you dropped the shutters, it would save a lot of problems.
Well,
But you love shutters, yes.
me? No. No, the original house has the shutters they're supposed to have, and those need to stay. But if you're gonna have shutters, they need to be the appropriate size, that's all. My house used to have shutters, I still have the hardware for them, but I couldn't tell you where the shutters went. You know, went to somebody's trash.
I mean, from a public way, it's a bit difficult to see the full configuration. It does obviously look very glazed, but I believe that maybe keeping the first floor to be this unique moment, I don't think that would harm the overall layout of the home, and the overall viewpoint. Let me see if I can get that right. Because even in these photographs, it's difficult to see what's happening on that facade. That was also part of our idea in pulling that facade back as well, because we wanted the Italianate structure to really stand tall, like it does, and keep this rear piece honorable to the historic, but also, you know, keep it for the clients to be able to get their light inside those spaces.
So if the shutters are removed on the east side,
They would have to be
Seems
removed on the other
logical that
side,
they'd have
too.
to be moved
I mean,
on the
that-
west-
Otherwise,
on the
it's
west
just sort
side.
of silly.
Yeah,
and there aren't any on any of the other structures as you've proposed, the barn and the other building in the back, those are shutterless.
yeah, I don't mind having the shutters. I just want them to be.
The record to be
Yeah,
clear,
like,
I, Julie Gilman, do not
okay.
hate Shutter.
no, they just need to be proportionate to the windows in the way that, shutters were sized to be, that's all. And that doesn't happen on the east elevation of the L because the windows are so wide and close together. So you can't possibly make them fit, or in the middle anyway, you can't make a large enough shutter for that, unless they overlap.
So, moving
Yeah.
right along. do you
know,
think We
trying to
could
find the drawing.
conditionally approve it by, let's see, how can we word this? Eliminating the center of the triple window on the second floor of the L,
The east elevation?
east elevation. And so what do you want to say about shutters?
I'll take anyone's opinion.
Well, my opinion is get rid of all of them, but,
You-
For the new,
You'd have
for the
to if
addition.
you're not changing the configuration on the first floor.
Right.
well, actually, you're right. Because if you take away the middle, then you've got the three, yeah.
If they take away the middle window on the second floor, the shutters will work fine. It's
Yeah.
the first floor with the double hungs that you can't do it. And so that brings up the question, do you do it at all?
And then if you
Do you
take away
change
the
the
shutters,
windows?
do we have
Well,
to get rid
that's-
of the middle window on the
Well,
second floor?
that's what I'm saying, is that
Kind of a cascading.
if you don't change those first floor windows, then take all the shutters away on both sides.
Okay.
And you can leave the middle window
Okay.
on the second floor.
No, I'd still take that.
Oh, would you?
So no middle window and remove the shutters.
Yeah, I mean, the double windows on the first floor are Well, I think they're, they're proportionally okay with the door and the windows above it in that configuration.
Now, how is that going to work with the rooms on the inside?
Taking away the middle window? That will still be fine, that room will still gain.
Just-
It still has the two windows.
Yeah.
These three are all in one room, so if this goes away, we'd still have.
Place to put furniture. All right, so
So-
that's that.
So it's,
Do we have anything on the other elevation?
we're removing the second level middle window on the east elevation on page,
A201.
yeah, 8201. Removal of shutters on
The L.
the L,
No.
full stop. And the carriage house, right? Well, there aren't any shutters.
There
in
aren't
the
any
carriage house, that's right,
carriage
that's
house
right,
or
that's
the
right.
barn.
Okay. Liz, did that make sense to you? Taking notes? Okay.
So that's the L.
Yes.
Do we have any, I don't think we had anything on the carriage house, correct? I didn't hear any,
Just that.
the windows on the carriage house, I don't think there were any
Windows on the
issues
carriage house are fine.
with that.
Nope.
And then we get to the big ticket item.
Now, the big ticket item, I want to see what she's going to do before I say yes. Yeah, well, I know what I really want you to do, but I know it's not.
So is that a
So we've
come
got,
back with the, I mean,
I'm still okay with it. I don't want to force them to go into a bolt-on U in the back.
Yeah,
It's,
nine.
I mean, time period, that's when Port Cashers came into play, was the late 18th century and 19th century, and it's not unique to Exeter. You know, I think a compromise with the bottom being an arch shape would kind of keep it in the same flavor it is now.
yeah, that's
Right.
my attempt to kind of thread that needle.
You know, I don't,
As best as, so we're not just sitting here.
maybe I'm
breathing at
just
each
not
other.
visualizing what the roof issue is.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, say,
Yeah, and I actually, well, it's.
Roof and the
it's-
carriage house and the barn are in decent shape now. You're not proposing,
No.
so there wasn't going to be a need to somehow create roofs that
Okay,
match.
you're growing me towards,
Sorry?
you're growing me towards being okay? That's why we have a board, right?
So I guess I see it as kind of two buckets on that. One is the elevation, and then the other aspect was the roofing material.
Well, for me, it wasn't just the roofing material, it was the massing of it too, just the sheer
Okay.
size. And that, that's the question of how deep it needs to be. I don't know which drawing I'm looking at. Can you tell me which drawing shows that connection between the carriage house and the barn?
Sure. A105 is the floor plan,
105 or 205?
and then the 3D view is A301, and then A202 is the
There it
elevation.
is. Sorry, my scroll bars, my scrolling is slow.
Here.
Oh, I don't want that. I wanted the floor plan. Yeah. hold on. Make it go away. All right, I'll have to resort to paper. I guess what I'm not either, oh, wait, this is- okay. So on 105, you're showing the proposed connector floor plan, and at what level am I looking at? I mean,
This
at
is
grade?
it connects the second floor of the barn to the second floor of the carriage house.
Okay, so what do those tiny words say in the middle?
Oh, just,
Hardwood flooring.
Hardwood flooring, it's just dictating material.
Yeah, what I was asking first was whether it really needed to be as deep as it is. And that's why I wanted to know where the doors were that connected the two.
Right, the doors are placed based on the existing internal structure, because it's a post and beam and truss structure, especially for the barn.
Would it get,
Do the doors on the second floor line up over the doors on the first floor, or are they at different parts of the wall?
yeah, that's a good question.
Different parts of the wall, because we have a existing fireplace over here, so we wanted to align these doors
Right.
here. The first floor, the door to the barn comes out this side.
Of course.
And what about on the carriage house?
The carriage house, I believe, is right over here. So not in quite
there-
the same
there-
alignment, but
Yeah, there's not
You can't make
a
it
whole bunch
narrower.
of that 20-foot that you could eliminate without losing the cover on the first floor.
Right.
exactly.
Well,
I mean,
So how do
I
we do
know.
this? In two sections or one section?
well, I think we've done one section. I think, or two, actually. We don't have a problem with the treatment of the carriage house and barn as they stand.
outstanding, yeah.
And we've talked about the addition in the back, then the L, which I think we've solved that. And it just gets to this middle piece. And it's growing on me.
Glad to hear it. Within our research, we also had noted that, the porte cochere is also a precedent stylistically with the Italianate, so we were just trying to carry that on through, but I understand
very
the
Newport-like.
thoughts. What?
It's very Newport-like
Newport, okay.
in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a chateau or anything.
No.
This go away. Well, what are you people thinking? I'm doing all the chatting up here about this thing.
I think the addition of the arch could be a nice way to kind of mediate and retain some of the architectural style that's there now. That's, kind of a character defining feature of the house, but also allow you to kind of reuse this space. But I think, want to see what that might look like before approving, but I don't know. How do you both feel?
He's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's ready. I don't need to see the arch piece because what we're asking you to do is replicate what's there. So don't change it into a full arch, just that little slice, little slice curve.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with that, and it's not going to, because it's always been decorative, so it's still going to be decorative.
Yeah.
It's that roof.
I
And
understand, yeah.
pointing out that you're not going to see it as we are, flat face looking at the elevation straight on, that when you're walking down the street, you're not going to see how much that roof really goes back. What's the run of the roof? 1 and 2 or 1 and 1, or,
The
pitch.
slope,
The
sorry.
pitch, yeah, the word.
I believe it's 312 or 412. It's to be able to get enough
Yeah, no,
headroom.
I understand. what
Because
you're saying.
the jumping point too with that is, because we're kind of aligning these eave conditions, so we're kind of trying to create a continuous moment there. This, we need this height to be able to, from this jumping point
Yep.
to give enough room in that space. Because that jumping point's about 6'6".
Well, that's not terribly steep. The 3 and 12. Means for every inch, every foot up, it runs 3 or 12 inches down, so. All right, I'm going to say.
I mean, a lower pitch would keep the surface area out of view.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, and this is pretty shallow as it is at 3 and 12.
Is it as shallow
What-
as it can be and be?
Yes. Would going back to the material conversation, would that help in any way, in terms of coloring?
Just
I
think the
don't think
marrying
so.
of the two roofs, I've never seen that before, so I'm having a hard time imagining what that would look like, although you won't see it from the road, but just, I
And
don't know.
in looking at this, you're gonna have the backdrop of the trees, so I mean, I think
Yeah.
even if you get the zinc, it's gonna be whatever amount you can see is still gonna be visible against the trees, so I don't know if if a different roofing
color
material,
matters.
color would make much of a difference.
Yeah. I mean, we're presenting this too, just, as being partners with you in this process, so, and we wanted to be able to bring this to light because there is the possibility of trying to push it further back if we need to, just to keep this accessibility.
I mean, I think I'm satisfied with kind of where we've ended up with the connector. Personally, I think I'm a little bit more on Kevin's wavelength at this point.
I'm getting there. Doesn't have to be unanimous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, there's another house in town that had a two-story porch. And one owner enclosed the porch, enclosed the top piece in glass, in windows. So it's similar to what that is, where the bottom half was open and the top half was closed. And I thought at that time, that house made it look top-heavy. But it doesn't have the same, that place doesn't have the same kind of backyard, I guess, or backyard space that does affect your view of this house. So it did look chunky. This
Yes.
isn't chunky. It's
No.
different. It's new.
Mm-hmm.
I will be yelled at about the roof. But I think I can, with the addition of the
Decorative arch.
decorative arch, replicated arch, then I think that, I think I can go with it. I will be yelled at, though.
Anybody have any other comments?
Well, I don't like it, but I'm clearly outvoted, so
You can still vote against it.
I will.
Okay.
I'll vote for everything else.
I guess, do we have any public comment? All right, hearing none.
Thank you.
So I guess the first is, do I have a motion to approve the application as complete?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we get to actually discuss the application.
Oh, boy.
So, so I guess any further comments, points of discussion, anything?
No, I think we've covered, everybody had a different thing that they wanted to look at.
We talk about barn doors.
Sure.
What do you do? How are you replacing, or what's happening with the barn doors?
Oh, so
The barn
sorry.
door. Is it,
It's just
It
being
seems like-
replaced in kind.
they're wood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're already wood right now. We'd just be doing, making the top panel fixed for the floor.
It already has a top panel, doesn't it? No?
Yes, so, sorry. This
Yeah.
top panel here would become
Oh.
fixed because this is now becoming
Yeah.
full usable upper space.
So you won't really notice that.
Nope.
It's actually
I
kind of
love
cool.
I love the wood. It's kind of a maintenance nightmare,
It is.
just because they start to rot on the lower level. If you
Yes.
are diligent and have someone come in every year and sand it and urethane it or whatever you're gonna do,
Well, they're
that works.
made a little differently these days, so.
Maybe I've had experience with those, so I know what they're like, but that's not our problem.
So, do I have I'm just gonna make sure, I'm gonna run through the conditions and make sure that we're all on the same page. For the east elevation that's represented on page 204, the second level will have the middle window removed. And all shutters on the L will be removed. And for the connector, the bottom is to maintain the arch consistent with the existing elevation, or how do we?
No, it's not the same elevation, it's just the same shape.
Or
But
the
it's
same
gonna
shape.
drop down a little.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Anything else that I missed?
It's all on my checklist, so.
Do I have a motion? Does
I
anybody
will-
want to
I
rattle
will
that
move-
off?
I will move to accept the application with the amendments as stated.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Me?
So that's.
You were opposed, Gwen?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Verity, what was your vote?
No.
I say it reluctantly, but
So that's Verity and Pam opposed. So the motion passes 4-2. And you're all set?
All right. Thank you so much again for your time this evening.
Thank you. All right, so next order of business, we have the approval of the March 20th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Well, we need to change Verity's name. And actually, we need to change Mrs. Meany's name, which is spelled two different ways. Is it, where is my notes? Is it M-E-A-N or M-E-E-N?
And Mrs. Mean, how do you spell your name? Is it with two E's or is it M-E-A? Okay, thank you, good night.
So, I guess on page 1, second paragraph, should be Verity, Verity.
Yep.
Yep.
And that just make it consistent throughout. I don't know if
Yeah,
there's anywhere
couple
else.
more
There,
places.
yep,
And then meany instead of, it should be MEANEY
Correct.
yep.
throughout. And then I don't know if anybody had anything else.
I didn't see anything else.
I did not.
So, do I have a motion to approve the March 20th, 2025 meeting minutes as amended?
So move.
All those in favor? Oh, do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
And I abstained because I wasn't present.
I also abstain because I wasn't present.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one. All right, so the meeting minutes passed, 4, and then 2 abstained.
Yep.
Anybody have any other business?
I do.
What's going on?
Well, a couple of things. I don't know if, I think has been forwarded to you, the New Hampshire Office of Planning and Development Spring Exhibition Conference Series. They, for a number of years, never had anything to do with historic preservation or historic districts, and it was all about planning and zoning. And then last year, I finally got them to do something on preservation. So now they have 3 tracks of classes. There's a planning tract, a zoning tract, and then a historic preservation tract. And you can sign up for only one tract, but you can sneak into the rooms. And I don't believe it costs anything, but if it does, the town will pay for it or reimburse you for it. If you go onto the Heritage tract to register for that, they have this nice shot of Exeter on their splash page. Yeah, it's very cool. And then the other thing I have was trying to explain to somebody the difference between old growth wood and new wood. So I found these pictures, and these are from Preservation Nation that show. I'm going to pass them down. Existing old growth windows, and then also an illustration of what the difference between the wood looks like and how the old growth wood is much denser because it's just old and hasn't been allowed to grow many rings. And new construction is using this lighter weight, not very dense wood that is not, burns easier, does not insulate as well. So this is 10 windows why to preserve your wood windows, or 10 reasons. And I just wanted everybody to have that just for our learning purposes, and also because May 10th, is that a Saturday, is the Alewife Festival. And the Sustainability Committee is having a table about the various projects that they've put on, and also the Energy Committee. And I just wondered if you wanted to put a little something on the table, because if you read the at number 5, it talks about the tons of demolition debris that could build that each year. The amount of demolition debris created, and some of it from taking out your old windows and putting in newer, not so long-lasting windows, is 124 million tons, or enough to construct a wall 30 feet high and 30 feet thick around the entire U.S. coast. Each year. It's
Appalling.
It's appalling.
Don't give anybody a.
So this is, yeah. I know, if somebody wanted to build a wall, right? This would be something you could see from space, yeah. So this is for you to know, and I was going to go and bring some of these, or for people to take pictures of for themselves. I think it's from 10 to 2, so if anybody wants to stop by. I'm also going to have a couple copies of our design guidelines, just to show off that it's there. You can use this not just for the HDC, but for the care of your own home, and care and feeding of your own home. Give us a
Window women
still, is that still a thriving?
Yes.
Yes,
she is.
absolutely.
And they put new windows in the Kensington Church.
Oh, really?
I actually work for her.
Oh,
on
really?
Mondays. Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
It's my other job.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she came and
Wow.
priced out my house.
Ah.
Yep.
ah,
She's great.
ah.
She started just doing her own windows, or her friend was doing her
We're
windows.
kind of at that point.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
250.
Yeah,
windows.
there are a couple other in the state that, a couple other window restoration companies. We shouldn't, if we want to suggest to someone, we
Oh,
should give
yes.
like
Yeah.
3,
Okay.
No, I'm not
Lots
saying
of
you are suggesting, I'm saying if it comes up that somebody wants a recommendation, we have 3 at least that we can give.
Great, great.
So, But,
This is great. Thank you, Julie.
yeah, and there's a couple other documents that were more in the weeds that I got. I got these from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. But they were talking about the energy savings, which is what a lot of people bring up. And it truly is either equal or equal energy savings or even just a tiny bit lower. So your return on investment in rehabilitating and putting on storm windows, new storm windows, is the same, if not faster than with the replacement windows. So, just, a little advertising out there.
Is the workshop that you talked about first, is that something that you can attend online? Is it available virtually, or is it all in
It'll be
person?
recorded, I believe.
Recorded, okay. Could you send us a link?
Yeah, Barb did, yeah, it
Did
was,
she already send it, and I'm,
it was maybe a month
Okay.
ago. I don't think it's too late to register.
okay. Look at that.
And Julie, where is the table going to be during
Oh,
this?
sorry about that, Founder's Park.
Okay.
So people will be counting fish,
Yes. Yeah.
but it's a good place to, when you're talking about sustainability and keep
Absolutely.
keep the waste stream down.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That was good news.
Anybody have anything else?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.